Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Hain Education, where we share the knowledge of biology. So today in this video, I will be sharing about plant nutrition, put it in simple way, which is about the photosynthesis. So as we all know about plants or photosynthesis is a type of producing food or photosynthesis producing food or manufacturing food that the ecosystems can get the food from it. So before going into deeper, I would like to share with some learning objectives. So in this lecture video, we will be focusing on four main objectives, which includes to understand the process of photosynthesis and describing the structure of the leaf, as well as explaining how it is adapted for photosynthesis. So these two objectives will be the part of the first video. And for the second part, which I will be explaining how to understand about the plant's uses for glucose. So after plants photosynthesize and they produce glucose and how that glucose is used in the plant, and also with the investigation or to investigate the photosynthesis by testing for the production of starch in a leaf with the varying factor, including the let's say temperature or light intensity, chlorophyll, and carbon dioxide concentration. So let's get started. So this will be about plant nutrition, which is the photosynthesis. And when we talk about plants, we usually focus on the chloroplast, chlorophyll, cell wall, and they are all green. So this will be the basic main concept that you should be familiar with before going into this chapter. So as you can see from this summary diagram, so photosynthesis involves the light energy as well as the chlorophyll inside the chloroplast of the plant cell, and they take in carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil, and they produce glucose and oxygen. That would be the simple main concept that we will be exploring for today's lectures video. And this is the another illustration diagram that you can see that the sunlight and also the intake of carbon dioxide and output of oxygen and sugar, as well as the water, which is absorbed from the soil by the process of osmosis. So not only about water, but also the mineral needed will also be absorbed by the water, by the roots and through the xylem, and which we will cover in the future video as well. So let's get started. And when we talk about photosynthesis, so if we break it down into a simpler way, or if we break that down into break it down to make it easier. So photo mean, as we all know, photo in biology is not the photo that we take. So it is the light. And synthesis, or the word synthesize, is mean producing or is manufacturing. So from this words itself, we can predict or we can think of that we are manufacturing or producing something using light energy. So we don't know what is that something. So the process by which plants manufactures carbohydrates, so it is a form of glucose from raw material, so which would be the carbon dioxide and water using light energy from sun, or it can be from the light energy. And most of the students make mistake that they only assume it is sunlight. No, so actually it can be any form of light. So it can be the light from the lamp. It doesn't have to be specifically the sunlight, or it doesn't have to be the sun, right? And green plants used energy from sunlight in nature. When we talk about natural type of photosynthesis or in natural world, that will be the sunlight. But if we talk about indoor plant or the plant that do not get that sunlight, let's say if we grow a tree or not a tree, a plant inside our house or in our living room, then it might use the light energy that is available from the lamp or from the light bulb, right? So that could also be considered as the light energy available for photosynthesis. And beside light, there is another important component that need to be available is the chlorophyll, which is present in the chloroplast, and it is the character that give a green feature or green color pigment to the plant that make them look green, right? So it is the pigment which make plants look green, and it is inside the chloroplast of the plant cell. So when we talk about in summary, so when the sunlight falls on a chlorophyll molecule, so since this is O level, so we do not go deeper into the photosystem 1, photosystem 2, Kelvin cycle and everything, right? So This would be the when the sunlight fall on the chlorophyll molecules and the light energy get absorbed by the chlorophyll, and it will be further used in the process of photosynthesis where they will break down water into hydrogen and oxygen, which is also known as photolysis. And the hydrogen will combine with carbon dioxide and it will produce glucose with the, of course, help of enzyme. So photosynthesis is a type of thing that can only convert light energy. So photosynthesis can convert light energy to chemical energy. So this is the only reaction, or this is the only type of how do I say, is the type of chemicals react, or it is a type of reaction which can convert light energy available naturally to chemical energy. So this is the illustrated diagram of chloroplast. So this is just FYI for this level, but if we go to A level, they should know all about it. So here, what I would like to emphasize is, since we all know that plants are also considered as eukaryotes, right? So eukaryote contain membrane-bound organelle, and also here chloroplasts, they contain double membrane-bound they are double membrane-bound organelles. We can see that they contain outer membrane and inner membrane, and together we can call as chloroplast envelope, and they contain the chlorophylls and everything. So this is FYI, so you don't need to worry about this too much. But this is the thing that you have to be familiar with, and you need to ace this equation. So this is the equation, and you can see that carbon dioxide plus water. So which this we can consider as reactant, or in some time we can also call this as the raw material. So these are the raw material where they combine in the presence of chlorophyll and light. So in presence of sunlight, or in presence of light and chlorophyll, they will produce glucose and oxygen. So this side would be the products, right? So 6CO2 plus 6H2O gives C6H12O6 plus 6O2. And here also another thing that I would like to remind to the students or to whoever watching this video. So this is for those who do not know, right? So carbon dioxide formula is CO2, water is H2O, and oxygen is O2. And sometimes students get confused when I ask like, okay, what is the formula of carbon dioxide? And they will just say like 6CO2. I was like, how come you got 6 in front? They said like, oh, it's from the equation of photosynthesis. And I was like, no, that is not correct, because carbon dioxide itself is CO2. And the reason we put 6 is to balance the chemical equation, okay? So carbon dioxide, CO2, water, H2O, that's it, done. The number 6 in front are just to balance the chemical equation. So one more time, photosynthesis is the manufacturing or producing of glucose using light energy. So photosynthesis is an endothermic process, meaning that the energy is taken in. And another thing most students got confused is photosynthesis produced energy. This is a no type, right? Because photosynthesis do not produce photosynthesis does not produce energy, because this is not respiration. Only respiration produced energy, and photosynthesis is endothermic reaction where the energy is taken in, and they involved a lot of enzyme control reaction, and they are a serial. So it means that they happen in a sequential processes, or they happen in series. So but for this level, it's totally fine that you do not know about light dependent reaction, light independent reaction, Kelvin cycle, and everything. So those will be in the A level if you are to continue with it. So photosynthesis can also be the type of reaction that produce food, right? So mainly producer produces food by the process of photosynthesis, which is also important in the ecosystem, right? Because we get food because the plants are available and they produce glucose, and that glucose can be consumed by animals, and we are consuming this animal. So it's okay for now, but remember that photosynthesis is also important concept in ecosystem as the producer producing food through the photosynthesis. And beside photosynthesis, these are just for your knowledge. So this is by as the name already suggests, exploring the unusual nutritional adaptation in plants, right? So besides photosynthesis, there are also several type of plant that they consume food by different forms. So what I think that most students would be familiar with the last one, right? Which is the carnivorous plants. So we got pitcher plants and we got Venus flytrap. So I feed this. Most students are familiar with the carnivorous plant, and we got parasitic plants and we have epiphytes, right? So this is just FYI for your information, and you can read it in your comfortable time. So this is just about it and brief intro with photosynthesis. So this is just the summary and key fact about photosynthesis. So photo mean light, synthesis mean manufacture or producing something. So in this case, glucose, right? Okay, so after we know about the equation, or let's say after we understand the process of photosynthesis, I would like to share and I would like to get more information about the structure of the leaf, right? Even though when we see a leaf, you may think that, oh my God, this is very a thin layer of leaf, but actually they are made up with different layers of cells and different layers of tissues to be able to perform the process of photosynthesis and to be able to adapt to those things that they need to use for photosynthesis. So photosynthesis happen inside chloroplast, and we can also consider a leaf as a factory for making carbohydrates, and they are adapted to allow photosynthesis to take place as quickly and efficiently as possible. So this is to remind about the leaf structure. So leaf consists of a broad flat part, which is known as lamina, and they are joined to the rest of the plants with the PTO, or which is also known as a leaf stalk. So as you can see from the label diagram on the top corner, so we got lamina, which is the flat part, broad part of a leaf, and we got a leaf stalk, or which is also known as PTO, and vascular bundle are running through it. So vascular bundle are also known as vein. So the vein of vascular bundle includes xylem and phloem. So as I mentioned already, leaf may look thin, but hold on, they are made up of several layers of cells, and we can straight away go to the leaf structure. So what I like to what I like to say to my student regarding the structure of leaf is a sandwich model, right? So a sandwich. So we have tried sandwich in our life, I guess most of you, right? So sandwich contain two layer of bread on top and on the at the bottom, and you have fillings, right? So you may have cheese, you may have eggs, you may have whatever in between. So I feel that this structure of leaf example, or it's similar to the foundation of a sandwich, right? So we got bread on top and bread at the bottom, so which is the layer of upper epidermis and lower epidermis, and whatever inside that you are putting in and you are eating it, so it's a mesophyll layer. So you already get a how do I say, brief image of a leaf structure. So leaf contain, okay, let's say three main layer, which are upper epidermis and lower epidermis, right? So you can also look at it as a burger, right? So where we got two piece of bread at the bottom and on top, right? So that would be a piece of burger, or let's say it's a sandwich. So I like to say a sandwich. So let's say this is a model of a sandwich. So we got upper epidermis, lower epidermis. So in sandwich also, it is the same, right? We got bread, right? Bread on top, bread at the bottom. So here we got epidermal cells, upper epidermis and lower epidermis. And inside, or like whatever in between, is known as a mesophyll layer. And mesophyll layer got two different layer again. So we got palisade layer and the spongy layer. Okay, so in total, let's say four different layers. So we got upper epidermis, palisade mesophyll, spongy mesophyll, and lower epidermis. Okay, so now let's explore layer by layer. So from the upper epidermis, you may see that cells contain no chloroplast at all, and they contain cuticle layer. So let's see here. So they said that top and bottoms are covered with a layer of closely fitting cells, which are known as epidermis, and it can be further divided into, let's say, upper epidermis and lower epidermis, right? And as you can see from the diagram again, both epidermal layers, or let's say both upper and lower epidermis, they do not contain chloroplasts, right? So since they do not contain chloroplasts, let's talk about upper epidermis. Okay, so now let's talk mainly on upper epidermis. So upper epidermis do not contain, or let's say if it is a layer, so upper epidermis layer does not contain chloroplasts. So, since they do not contain chloroplasts, the layer may seem transparent, right? So, it is transparent. Being transparent allows more light to pass through, and they reach to the mesophyll layer. So, this is also a part of adaptation, right? So, I'll repeat one more time. Upper epidermis layer do not, let's say, does not contain chloroplast. So since they lack chloroplast, it look like it is a transparent layer, right? So being transparent allow more light to pass through for the photosynthesis. And beside beside for chloroplast, beside for absorbing more light energy, they are also to protect the inner layer as well. So both upper and lower epidermis, another function is to protect the inner layers as well. And for the upper epidermis, so they also secrete a waxy cuticle, or let's say wax substance, which is known as waxy cuticle, right? So waxy cuticle, they help to stop water from evaporating, or let's say evaporation. So it's also prevent water loss via evaporation or via transpiration, let's say. So I'll repeat one more time. Upper epidermis layer, they are mainly for protection, and they do not contain chloroplast. So since they lack of chloroplast, it is transparent and it's allow more light to pass through. So that would be the one function. And another thing is that they produce or they secrete a waxy cuticle, which is to stop the water from evaporating, or which is to prevent the water loss. Okay, so this is about upper epidermis. So as you can see from the diagram, and again, also for the lower epidermis, they do not contain chloroplast, but there is an exception. So as you can see from this diagram, even though the lower epidermis cells do not contain chloroplast, the guard cell contain chloroplast, and the guard cell control the opening and closing of the stomata, and the stomata allow the gas exchange. Okay, so this would be about epidermal cells, which are upper epidermis and lower epidermis. Okay, so now let's move on to the mesophyll layer and middle layer, which is the mesophyll. So mesophyll layer, they contain chloroplast. They all contain chloroplast, and mesophyll layer can be further divided into two, which we can see here, the palisade mesophyll and spongy mesophyll. So palisade mesophyll is the main site for photosynthesis. So let me write here. So we got palisade layer or palisade mesophyll layer. So you can see from the diagram, they contain many chloroplasts. So since they contain many chloroplasts, they are the main site for photosynthesis, right? So palisade layer is main site for photosynthesis. And another thing that you could see is that palisade layer, they have the, how do I say, the rectangular regular arrangement, right? So they have regular arrangement, meaning that cells are in regular arrangement and they are closely packed together. So closely packed together. So this feature increases surface area to absorb light energy. So this could also be the adaptation of the leaf for the photosynthesis. Okay, so we talk about upper epidermis, lower epidermis, palisade mesophyte, or palisade layer. So now it's time for spongy layer or spongy mesophyte. They also contain chloroplast, of course, so they can also carry out some amount of photosynthesis, but not as much as when we compare to the palisade mesophyte layer. So the adaptation or the distinguishing feature of spongylia is containing, or it contains, air spaces which allow gases exchange, right? Or let's say it by diffusion. So, and they also have, so to be able to have air spaces, they have irregular arrangement, right? So you can see from the diagram, they are like a sponge, right? You guys know about sponge, right? So sponge, you can press it down and it can back to its normal shape. So it means that they contain air spaces. So to be able to contain air spaces, they have irregular arrangement, and air spaces allow the movement of the gases, or it allows for the gases exchange by the process of diffusion. Besides air spaces, spongy layer also contain veins. So we can see here a vascular bundle. So we got xylem and phloem, right? So xylem is to transport water and minerals, right? Water and minerals. Phloem is to transport nutrients. So in this case, let's say sucrose, amino acid. Okay, so these are the layer of leaf and their adaptation to photosynthesis. So in summary, I'll repeat one more time. So leaf, you may look, it is a thin layer, but actually they are made up of several layers, right? So as you can see here, and I use sandwich model. So we got upper epidermis, lower epidermis, or we can say epidermal cells, and they lack chloroplast. So you now know that not all cells contain chloroplast, even though you may think that, oh my God, leaf contain chloroplast, but come on, look at this. Even in a leaf, two layers, so upper epidermis and lower epidermis, they do not contain chloroplast. So their main function is for protection. So let's say from the infection of the microorganisms and everything. So it's like a skin on our body, right? So it is epidermal cell. And specifically talking about upper epidermis, they also secrete waxy cuticle, which is to prevent water loss by evaporation. And also for the lower epidermis, they contain guard cell, and guard cell control the opening and closing of stomata. So with the opening and closing of stomata, it allows gases to come in and go out. So mainly when we talk about photosynthesis, carbon dioxide enter and oxygen leave. Not only oxygen, but also the water vapor, so which we will learn more about in the transpiration chapter or plants transport chapter. So now after about epidermal cells, moving on to mesophyte layer. So mesophyte layer contain two different layer, palisade mesophyte and spongy. So palisade layer contain many chloroplasts and they are main site for photosynthesis, and cells are arranged regularly and they are closely packed together, which increases the surface area for the leaf to absorb light energy. And spongy layer or spongy mesophyte layer, they contain cells that are irregularly arranged, and due to that arrangement, they contain air spaces which allow gases exchange by diffusion. And spongy layer also contain vein or vascular bundle, so which is mainly to support and transport, right? And xylem main function is to transport water and minerals, and phloem main function is to transport nutrients, specifically sucrose and amino acid. Okay, so this is the another summary illustration that you can see that leaf is made up of several different types of cells layers. So let's say several different tissues. And again, upper epidermis, lower epidermis, mesophyte, palisade mesophyte, spongy mesophyte, cuticle, air spaces, xylem, phloem, veins, stomata, gut cell, everything. So this is the same regardless of any textbook or any illustration. And again, this is also another illustration that you might encounter in your exam paper. Regardless of any diagram, if you really understand the main foundation and if you really get the concept of the layers, then it's okay. It will be very easy if you can identify which layer is what and how do you identify also matters in the exam, right? And from this diagram, you can also see stomata and gut cell as well. And again, this is also another illustration diagram from different book with the vertical section of a leaf blade, and another diagram is enter microscope that I mean boulder enter microscope, but with the staining process and everything. And this is just to wrap up about the veins of vascular bundle, which we got xylem and phloem. And don't worry too much about it because you will also learn more about in the future video, which will be in the transpiration of plant transport. And again, this is the summary illustration that you may want to read it. Okay. And again, this is a summary table since I like to make table form. So which I feel that is an easier way to memorize or easier way to remember before you go for your exam as well. Okay, so as usual, after every lecture or after every lecture topic, then I will also provide as much question as possible or as useful question as possible so that you could practice after you watch my video or after you study about a concept, right? And I got three different multiple choice questions. So for number one, a diagram show a plant cell and which features show that this is a palisade cell. So we already studied about that. Palisade cells contain many chloroplasts. So the answer is D, right? So it's contain many chloroplasts. And which substance do root hairs take from the soil? So we already mentioned about that. Root hairs or root absorb water and mineral ions, right? Because carbon dioxide, oxygen, they enter from the leaf or stomata. So it's not from the root for sure. And the diagram show a section through a leaf and which cell type absorb most carbon dioxide. So they said most carbon dioxide during the day, and it said the day, right? So during the day, plants perform photosynthesis, and the main type for photosynthesis is palisade layer. So the answer would be B, right? So for just to remind, just to recall and everything, layer A is upper epidermis, and layer C probably it would be xylem, but let's say it's a vein or vascular bundle. And last one is spongy, right? D is spongy because it's not gut cell because gut cell are here. So these two are gut cell and this is stomata. Okay, so this would be the end for today's lecture video where we focus mainly on the equation or let's say the process of photosynthesis. So just to remind, photosynthesis is the process of manufacturing glucose or carbohydrates using light energy. So the equation would be carbon dioxide plus water. It gives glucose and oxygen. And as for the chemical equation, it would be 6CO2 plus 6H2O arrow C6H12O6 plus 6O2. And we study about the structure of a leaf or a layer of a leaf and the adaptation that would have to be able to perform the as best as possible for the process of photosynthesis. And again, this is the FYI diagram that you can just ignore if you do not want to, but I feel like this is a very good illustration that you would see in your real life enter microscope. And thank you so much for watching this video and hope you learn about photosynthesis and hope this Hope this helped you with your international GCSE learning journey. And I will also upload part 2 of this video. And this is the first part of the photosynthesis. And we still need to learn more about the investigation into photosynthesis, and after photosynthesis producing glucose and how the plant uses this glucose. So thank you so much again. And if you have any questions, any concerns, you can leave comment or you can send messages to the provided email or to my Instagram account. So thank you so much. Have a great day and hope to see you all in next video. So have a great day. Bye bye all.